Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. I am Morten and I'm not here this time with my good friend and colleague Lars Henriksen. He has had a family emergency he had to take care of, so we decided I would do this interview episode on my own. We always start off by reminding you of the purpose of this podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTD'ers. If you're new to GTD, we recommend you that you go back to and listen to the episodes 1 through 6 as an introduction to the basics of GTD, the 5 steps. These episodes are only available in audio format, so you'll need to head into your podcast app to listen to them. And today's episode is number 97 of the podcast, and today's episode is an interview with DJ and musician Darude. In this interview, I'm joined by Jukka, our partner in Finland, and we are having the great joy of talking to the talented musician, songwriter, and DJ Darude. I suggest that you stop the podcast now and check out the links in the show notes to listen to some of Darude's music, and then come back here for the interview. See you in a bit.
And now, our special guest.
I am super happy to have you, Darude. Or is it Darude? I think it is Darude because it is the rude person. Are you rude?
I would say no, but
okay.
But the name just came sort of in a fun way. I didn't come up with myself really, so. I decided to keep it without the word rude in it, and I think it's actually quite fun to be the opposite. I think I'm pretty well mannered.
Yeah, and this is my first impressions of you is that you really are. So I'm happy to have you, and I'm going to be very interested to hear what you have to say about getting things done and your experiences with that.
Well,
and I just want to dive into who are you really and what do you do for people who don't know the not so very rude Darude.
Well, so I am currently a 48-year-old Finnish guy who has and had already as a teenager a lifelong love for music, and then I could consider I lucked out big time because I finally got to study with people who showed me how to make music in the electronic way with computers and samplers and such. Because up until that point, I'd been a hockey player, I'd been busy with other stuff, and I'd never studied music nor, taken piano lessons or something like that. Even though like nothing prevented me from doing that other than my other hobbies and interests. So I had this craving to make my own music that I didn't kind of even know all about. And then when I saw my friends messing with some samples and layers of other people's music, combining their own stuff, and all of a sudden, like my head exploded, and I got my own computer very shortly after that, and started trying to make my own music as well. And I think I'm one of those people who don't kind of care I do care how great I'm playing stuff live these days, but I just had one sample, one this and that, and I started putting them together without thinking if anybody likes it or not, because I was just so into it. And I finally got to sort of realize what's in my head and get it out as actual sounds and music, though I don't know if the first things were exactly that musical yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, we all have to start somewhere. Some of us dabbled with music when we were young and never got anywhere. But I'm super happy that you actually got somewhere with your music, which makes me super happy because now we can enjoy it.
Now I've been at it as a career, maybe. Coming 25 years, and I've made music a few years longer than that, and I'm a father of 2. I have a 5.5-year-old girl and 14-year-old boy, and I've got an amazing wife who is also involved in the business side, or on the business side with me. I'm the one who more sits here in my studio and tries to get stuff out of my head into actual pieces of music, and then together we sort of plan when and how and possibly with whom we'll put that stuff out. And it's kind of a family business and pleasure at the same time.
Thank you. That's a good background for people who don't know you. But I've, when I dabble around in your social media, what do you call it, catalog, I find that you're an avid skateboarder, or at least you're, very interested in skateboarding and trying to get better all the time.
I am, so I skated when I was a kid, I don't know, 6, 7 something years, and then my situation changed. I went to the Finnish military service when I was 19 after high school, and so that's a year away from home, and then I actually went straight to study at a different city in Turku in Finland, and my circles just changed and skateboarding kind of dropped for no real reason that I remember. And then 2016 I visited a friend of mine who has this 3D web design studio, and they had this micro ramp in their office, and I dropped in. I literally, it's 50 centimeters high, but it's a half pipe. I dropped in, and I still could drop in. I still could do like a couple of the basic tricks, axle stalls and whatnot. And I was like, why haven't I done this? I don't know. So he had his own skateboards. My friend Franz, and he has a skateboard brand called Silky Skateboards. So I bought a board from him right then and there, but it took me still like 2 years to actually get into skateboarding. So since 2018 now I've been skating, and especially during the pandemic, that was a really, really great release for me. And it's one of those things, like I play ice hockey as well, and that's been there all along, but it's one of those things with ice hockey that it has nothing to do with my profession, has nothing to do with finances, has nothing to do with responsibility to anybody else than myself. And it's also something that, even though I'm late, I had like over 20-year gap, so I'm not going to be in contests anywhere or doing anything spectacular with my skating, but you can always develop. You can always do a different variation of a trick. You can always find new ones, and if you get there, eventually go higher and faster and whatnot. But so it works really well for me.
Good, and it's just for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen me on my socials, and it's kind of fun to post the social stuff. I don't want to mess my algorithms. I have a team who does all of that, like the Darude posting. So I post to the stories on Insta and some YouTube shorts as well. And it's an interesting thing I want to show that side of me, but it doesn't have any purpose really, other than maybe people seeing who I am in addition to Darude and in addition to the music, which sometimes is portrayed as the highlights of the gigs and, champagne and, beautiful looking people and whatnot. And I'm there with my helmet on, with my sweaty body and unshaven face and whatnot. That's me on a skateboard.
It sounded like me on my Harley Davidson back in when I had a Harley. So I was also 40 around that time. So somebody gets a Harley, somebody gets a skateboard. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Jukka, who's going to do the interview questions with you. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you will already have understood that Jukka is coming and going, and that's due to some internet wizardry that's out of our hands. So we hope that this is going to work. So I will hand it over to Jukka. And Jukka, what is your, what questions have you prepared?
Okay, so thanks.
Hello, Darude. We have a number of creative types here in the GTD community within our coaches and trainers, musicians. One of my colleagues is the jazz bass player. I'm a percussionist, as are actually two of my other colleagues here in the Nordics. And at some point in our career, we all came across GTD, regardless of being in the creative side. So how and when you first come across GTD, and what is it that made you decide that this is something that you want to incorporate into what you do?
That is a good and profound question, and I don't remember the year exactly, but I want to say something around 2006 and 7 or so. I was living in America, and my wife and I, or then girlfriend and fiance, depending, I don't remember exact dates around this, but we had decided to get married. There were two things that I did. I wasn't particularly big or fat, but I took on this diet app, and I don't remember the name anymore. Lose It, yes, and that helped me greatly to cut my snacks out of my diet. And going towards the wedding was important to look at my best. And at the same time, I also started for my music stuff. I'd made notes before, like just written notes, and then like text notes on my computer, like Notepad or something. But I thought that I needed something more better at organizing things for my headspace, and then I just came across GTD, the book, and I read that cover to cover, and it was overwhelming at some parts, but the main thing was that it was more than like simple bullet points, to-do list, and I could, because I had the sense of I had different levels or grandness of things that I wanted to jot down somewhere. And very soon thereafter, I found an app called Things by Cultured Code that I still use on my phone and my iPad, on my Mac, and that's the basis of my my getting things done stuff. And I don't think I'm doing it as sort of deeply and religiously as some other people do, but it is very much like advanced kind of to-do list thing for me. And I have things that have been lingering there for years now. I mean, I've been using it, over a decade at least, maybe 15 years. And I have some life stuff there, but a lot of it has to do with remembering and organizing the proper order for a project, for instance, regarding my record company or my album things or specific tracks that I work on. And the best thing that I've gotten out of GTD and the app Things is that I never have to worry if I remember an idea or forget it, because I'll just constantly throughout the day I'm putting in things that I need to remember, and then I do my reviews. Sometimes I do them every day, sometimes I do them every week, and then sometimes I do my half a year or yearly reviews and see if I've forgotten something really big that I was supposed to do, and then I bring it up.
Thank you. That was a answer that actually opened the door to many places. So thinking about the work that you do, are there any specific GTD principles or techniques that you believe are especially valuable for musicians and or creative types?
I don't know, and you know what? Please don't quiz me about the principles and stuff, because I do I can say that I do know what GTD is about, but like I said, I'm not religiously going about it. But what's worked really well for me, a couple of things are that I really like the basic idea that I don't have to remember anything or worry about keeping stuff in my head so that I'll do that next or tomorrow or whatever, but I'll just put it in. That works really well for my creative space, whether I'm in the studio, whether I'm on the road. But if I have an idea, I can put it down. And if I get another idea while I'm doing that, a little bigger thing that I decided to do at the moment, I can actually quickly put it down. And I often actually incorporate, say, an iPhone recording. So I'm doing this thing, I'm having a great idea, good session, and I get another idea. At some point, I would have been bummed if I'd have to like choose between the two. Now I don't, because I have an iPhone. It can be obviously anything, a recorder. I just hum something in or verbally say something, and I make a note of that in the things as well. So then the next time I have a spot for that thought, then I can kind of put my mind back to that frame of mind. I think that's the key thing. And then another thing is that sort of the app and the GTD principles, they've made me realize that there's a time and a place for everything. So for instance, if I need to do phone calls, I don't often stress about doing them right now, but I do them, for instance, when I'm driving a longer bit. And then when I can't make music, even though I want to, but 24/7 pretty much, but when I'm not in the studio, when I'm not in the right place, then I just kind of can relax about it easier, knowing that the notes are made, and then when I get to my studio, which is obviously the place where I make music, then I do that. So those are those. And then also the review obviously is very important for me, because I make a lot of little tiny things every day, sometimes tens and tens, that I just inbox, and then I later need to go through with those. So that's like sometimes once a day, sometimes once a week when I try and clear the inbox.
Can I just make a small comment? You said that don't put me on the spot when it comes to your proficiency, and I just want to say that GTD is a journey. It's not about perfection, but a little bit better every day. And when you tell that you are, you tell very clearly that your head is empty and that you are focused, then well, that's where we want to be. So just for setting you to rest, we are not looking for perfection, not at all. So, yeah.
And it's an interesting thing, because I've tried to introduce this to my wife as well, and she's a very, very organized person. She's runs a lot of our household stuff, especially when I'm on the road. So I mean, she's responsible for the kids and their hobbies and timing everything and whatnot. And then also on my business side, she does a lot of things that need to be remembered and has an order and this and that. And then she's tried it, and she does not feel it's either the app, but maybe just GTD in general doesn't kind of work for her brain. And she's tried a couple of times over the years, and she has her own system, and it works really well.
Yeah, whatever system you use to get things out of your head. So over to you again, Jukka.
Yeah, actually, what you told about working with others sparked another question in my mind, is that when you work with your team, whether it's the team at home or your professional team, you obviously end up working a lot with people who don't necessarily have the same principles or mindset about getting things done as you do. How do you communicate with these people, or are there some GTD principles you've been able to carry over to the people that you work with?
I think sort of, well, in and outside of GTD, I mean, I don't think about the principles daily or whatever. It's just what I do, and my sort of sort of normal day-to-day stuff. But what we've gotten better, my wife and I, recently, or in the last couple of years, is that we've been able to figure out the order of things better. Like a project or a thing that we're going towards is not just one big lump of things that, or like that big thing needs to get done, but we are able to put it into smaller bits. And the order of that, of course, sometimes it's logical, most of the times, but sometimes it might not be. So figuring that out. And then where we've gotten better is that if there are other people involved, then we're quite strict about sort of setting deadlines, even if it doesn't necessarily need a deadline, but deadlines work for us, and then we kind of build a buffer into those deadlines. So if other people are involved, whether they are very artistic-minded, aloof, or very, very strict with their stuff, it kind of helps us when we have set the deadlines, and then we have a little buffer, and that, I think, I usually have an outline on my things app, and my wife does it her way, but then kind of, knowing that we can check somebody did that, then somebody did that, now we can do this, and then again check the next one. That helps like alleviating the panic that sometimes can creep in when you go towards a big deadline of getting a big project done.
I do feel you.
Yeah, definitely. So what if something goes wrong? Not necessarily with a specific project, but the term many GTD'ers usually use is that we occasionally fall off the wagon, meaning that we are somewhat lost with our process, or we skip the weekly review or something like that. Has that ever happened to you? And if so, what have you done to get back on the wagon?
Yes, it has happened to me. It happens all the time, in smaller and bigger ways. And like I said, maybe now I'll preface this. Maybe I should browse through the book again, but I didn't in the beginning, and even now I don't feel like I needed to or wanted to follow everything sort of very rigidly or religiously. It just wasn't or what I found was enough for me. But what I do is I often find, oh wow, I should have organized my inbox, because it gets cluttery, like there's too many things in it, or the today list. And if I start feeling overwhelmed, then I'll just I do this once every couple of months or so. What I suck at sometimes is, like, I have way too many things in a today list, for instance, and then sometimes I have way too many things in the inbox, meaning I haven't either done those or categorized them. And so then I do those sort of cleanup days, and I don't feel particularly stressed about, how can I say, I feel stressed about the amount of stuff in those lists, but it's not about them being undone. It's about them being, it looks cluttery, and I don't like that. And so then I quite find it kind of healing, or whatever the word would be, when I go through my list and then I tidy it up, and then I start over and I pick my next whatever amount of today things that I'm doing. And again, I think the principle of having it all written down, that helps me there, because they're not going anywhere. They're just there the next day or the next week. And obviously, if it's a matter of an actual hard deadline, then then that brings its own challenges. But for me, skipping a review, on my Sunday, for instance, when I often do it, it's not a big deal. I'll just do it whenever I next kind of can sit down and do it. and continue from there.
Yep. We all need compassion towards ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Any advice that you would like to give to aspiring artists or professionals wondering whether they should try GTD?
Well, that's easy. They should definitely try GTD, and they should read about it. I mean, I don't know if there are others or newer books now, but was it David Allen?
Yep.
His book. I read it back then. I bought the soft cover, and it was definitely life-changing for me. Not in a like, there wasn't fireworks or anything, but just like starting to implement it. A few weeks in, I realized my days were better. It had more. My days had more meaning, and I can see some artists might not like the sort of systematic thing that it brings in, but for me that kind of organization was crucial. And for instance, what I do, I have my Things app here open, and I have special places for instance studio work, and then specifically I have for instance a song project template that I just duplicate every time I start a new song. And the template has the note part has a link to the folder where it is on my hard drive. I'm listing BPM, key, and a couple of initial thoughts and ideas. Then I'm literally going through my creation process. Like I have somewhere like one empty task for arrangement, one empty for drums, bass, synth, effects, vocals, and those are basically just placeholders that you can duplicate whenever you get a new idea. You duplicate and write it down. And I do often when I work on a track, I work some, play the keys, record something, make some drums, whatever it is, and then when I get that done, my session is ending, I glance at what I've written down, and then if I get more ideas, and then very, very often I render whatever I've got so far. And then when I go pick up my kids from school or daycare, or when I go skating or something, driving in a car, I listen to what I had, and I pull up that project in the app, and I can add more notes. Hey, try this, try that. Hey, that drum is not great, blah, blah, blah. And the next time I'm in the studio, I mostly review or use the review on my song projects, I would say. And then in the same project, I have this checklist for final mix, which contains of like clean up the project so it looks better, hide or delete extra sort of bits that you don't hear, they're not playing, but they're kind of like extra ideas or whatever. It's just technically going to like, remember to EQ every channel, remember to do the gain staging correctly, check vocal clarity. It's just like notes that I've noticed that at some point I was sort of lacking in, and now it's sort of checklist from starting to do the track is ready, but starting to do the final mix, my checklist, and that's there in every music project that I start. And I think that's helped me again, kind of going through that checklist. I know that my track is sort of musically and technically up to par or very close to being finalized when I've kind of checked all the boxes.
Wow, okay. You really outlined the workflow. You created a project for basically everything there. So this actually reminds me of a quote by there's a guitarist songwriter Evan Taubenfeld, who said that before GTD I started 100 songs per year, but now I finish 100 songs per year. So that sounded very similar.
Yeah, and I don't finish 100 songs a year, but yes, it definitely helps me, because sometimes when I'm working on something, I might be like overwhelmed, or I might be wondering whether I'm there or whether it's up to par to whatever. But then I know it sounds ridiculous. I've been doing this for over 20, 25 years, but I still have my insecurities or moments of confusion or not knowing what I should do, where I should be. But then when I have a checklist, it sort of reinforces that feeling. Okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and now that I've done all of these, we should be in a very good space, and then I can decide whether I just work on more for other reasons, but like sort of technically and checklist wise, I'm good.
Great.
Can I just comment on that? Is that I've heard a lot of creative people talk about getting things done and how it helps them, and I'm trying to create a short sentence that might explain this, because you are not using your head as a system, so that you can be present in the moment, to be creative and getting things done. Would you agree with that it harnesses your creative powers?
Yeah.
Harness, you put a harness on a horse, it helps you to move in the right direction more effectively. You don't lose ideas as much as maybe if you don't have a structure.
Yeah. I mean, the structure definitely. And I've actually had artistic people tell me that they don't work well with structure and organization like that. And I don't know. But I'm more. Well, not more than a musician, but I'm also sort of engineering kind of background. I like high tech stuff, and I'm at least half as much interested in the technical aspect of making music, like synthesizers and drum machines and how they are programmed and all kinds of stuff. And so I have both of these sides, I guess. And I'm thinking that's where my wanting to organize like this comes. And I definitely agree. Like I don't mean to say harness is not the right word, but I don't know if I've used that. But GTD for me allows, like you said, kind of my head to be in the right, clear, unobstructed space when I need it to be, and then I can always refer to my list of things, so I can get going if I think I've veered too far from something, for instance.
You said that you've come across artists who say that they don't necessarily want to work with structure in that sense, like you would feel that you work. Have you come across, when you've traveled around the world, have you come across other GTD'ers, or is it a subject that comes up when you talk about the creative process or your workflow?
I haven't come across many that would say, hey, I'm doing GTD, or when I'm telling them that I do, it's not a thing necessarily that people are that aware of or that are using, but I've turned a couple of people, I've had a couple of people say buy this things up. I know there are other apps, but I'm on a Mac and this is what I've used forever, so that's just, I don't even want to think about going elsewhere. And then the book as well, I've recommended people reading that, and a couple of them have said, I don't know to what extent they are applying things, but they've said that it definitely was an enlightening reading and learning of the principles. And I mean, the thing is that sometimes things like, hey, getting things done ideology, that phrase in itself might be off-putting. People are like, hey, what? It's some woo-woo or whatever. So I very easily, well, when people know me, they know that that's not the case. So if I recommend this to somebody, whether they'll take it on or not, they'll usually check it out, because I'm sort of more practical than woo-woo in my other parts of life, I guess. And whatever woo-woo is, nothing against it, but I think the sort of logical and engineering-minded thinking is where I come from in many ways. But it's an interesting thing because I've just recently had convos with a couple of people about organization and this kind of thing, and I highly recommend it to anybody. And like I said, I've got a very close example, my wife, who doesn't feel it. So, it's okay, obviously.
Yep.
It is.
Great. I'm actually seem to be through with the questions we had planned. Morten, you have something up your sleeve?
Not up my sleeve, but as some ending questions is we are going to link in the show notes to Darude.com or Darude.com.
Whoa.
And where would you recommend people who are interested in your creative work? Where should they start? Where should they go, and which song should they start first with?
Okay, so today is the best day to be a music consumer because you can find anything and everything online. Spotify is an easy place, obviously. Apple Music, whichever platform you're using, my stuff should be almost on all those. I have back catalog coming from 1999 or 2000 up, and you will find that there's 4 albums and there's remixes that you just will find by looking for Darude, Darude. If you want to get in touch with me today, I read my Instagram myself. I have a team who does socials, but Insta is one of those platforms that I'm in the DMs myself with my team as well if it's business stuff. And then I have a stream every Friday, 6 p.m. Finnish time, so EET. That is on Twitch, twitch.tv/Darude, and I DJ.
Cool.
But I'm right here in my studio, and I read the chat, and I communicate with the people, interact all the time, and I got 200 to 600 simultaneous viewers, meaning a couple of thousand a night of those 2-3 hours that I DJ, and it's very, very interactive, and I have an amazing community that includes regular mods. The vibe is always good because, first of all, we don't get dumb people there causing trouble, but also if we do, my mods are really good and kick people out or calm them down for a little. And I got maybe core group of 100 people or something that come hang out. And some weekends, I'm on the road these days now when the pandemic is luckily behind us, mainly. And so I have sometimes somebody from that sort of core crew covering for me, DJing in my place. And so the community can still sort of catch up. And there, I'm the most live and direct. If you put a question in a chat, I usually respond, or if I don't see it, one of my mods will nudge me and stuff. And one of the things that I've always wanted to be and naturally been is I don't think I'm some big artist on a high pedestal or something. I'm very approachable and not rude, and so I owe everything that I've had this last 25 years soon to my fans and listeners. So I try to sort of give back or be there, be approachable when it's a good time for that. And I like my music has changed, but I believe this is sort of a challenge for somebody if you take a look at it now the first time. Sandstorm is the track. If you've heard one track before, that's what you've heard from me. But if you start from there and come towards 2023, I think you'll recognize that while styles have maybe changed a little bit, I broadened up my palette a little bit. It's still very much club dance floor aimed dance music, and I don't think I'm going to go away from that, even though I'm like trying to learn new things and widen my horizons myself as well.
My challenge to you, the listener or viewer of this podcast, open some of Darude's music and then see if you can stand still. You can't. That is not possible. Your rhythms are really, yeah. I've tried it, but it's not possible for me. And I'm past 60 years old, so if I can't stand still, younger people can absolutely not. So we are going to link to Spotify, Apple Music, to your Instagram and to your Twitch account. Maybe you will send us the link for the Twitch, because that is I'm not there for the Friday live show, and we will put it in the show notes.
I can send that.
Oh, you have everything. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good man. But I'm so happy that you took the time out of your schedule to talk to us. It's been a pleasure. And as a little self-plug, I can recommend our podcast if you want to refresh your Getting Things Done practice. Episode number 2 to 6 is the 5 steps of getting things done. Number 1 is what's in it for you. And we cover everything. My colleague Lars and I are running this podcast. So you are most welcome. We are turning 100 episodes soon. So we have something you can cherry pick if you want to learn something or refresh something.
Well, that's also a good thing to know or realize, but I can also point people to your podcast if I want to introduce Getting Things Done to them. So that's cool. And I'll take the refresher myself. I'm quite heavy in the podcast myself, and more so sort of not always like self-development, but something that has to do with more of that than entertainment, so to say. I find podcasts are really nice.
Sure.
Way to I'd rather listen to a podcast than swipe on Insta or something like that.
Me too. You can learn something while you're doing something maybe a little boring. That's my excuse for listening to it. So well, thank you so much for being here, and for those who have been listening to this, will know how to get in touch with Darude if you want. And I hope you appreciated this episode. It's been a blast. Thank you so much, Darude, and thank you, Jukka, for the interview. See you in the next episode. Take care, all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Before we do the usual wrap-up, a quick reminder about a favor we wanted to ask you as a listener. As we mentioned in the previous episodes, we are slowly approaching our episode number 100. This is obviously a big milestone for us, and we wanted to make a special episode out of it. And for this, we need your help. We have already received 3 greetings, and we would like to have more. We would like to hear from you. A quick email, an audio snippet, or even better, a quick video with you. A quick message with whatever you'd like to say, like thanks for the podcast, thanks for episode X that really helped me to do Y, or whatever you want. We'll then use them in the episode number 100 and have a bit of fun in that episode. So if you can find time to do that, we would really appreciate it. And you know where to send it, podcast@VitalLearning.dk. As we wrap up this episode, as always, a quick reminder for you to head over to VitalLearning.eu and have a look around to learn more about the new company. On that site, you will find information about all the things we can help you with, links to the country website for each of the Nordic countries, and on each of those sites you can find articles about getting things done, links to newsletters, and of course you will find all of our offerings regarding speeches, coaching, and seminars, both virtual and physical. If you're outside the Nordic region, head over to cruciallearning.com to find your local partners. And until next time, people, stay safe and stay productive. Bye-bye. So starting recording now. So I have a fandom story to tell, because I was not aware that you were, that, for instance, Sandstorm was yours. So when I found out we were going to do an interview with you this summer, I started listening to you, and one of the things I can tell you is that I kind of brainwashed my family with this. We rented a house in Turkey where we had a big swimming pool, a big garden, and when we were swimming in the pool, it was a big, ghetto blaster outside, and we played Darude the whole time, and everybody loved it. So
nice.
Thank you.
Oh well, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm super happy that you are here. So I will say that now we officially will start the interview, and if I can cut this in somewhere, or it might be if we make a fool of ourselves, we normally cut that out and put it in the end, so that as an Easter egg for people who listen or hang out to the end. So
okay,
cool.